Welcome, Jet fans. It's a game day episode of the Jets Life podcast. The day's finally here. It's September 11th, and the Jets are looking at you guys. We're pulling in and getting ready for this game. It's going to start in about 4 hours. Recording this at 4:15 p.m. Day's finally here. Super pumped. Got a Rodgers jersey on. Been waiting for this day for since the moment he declared that he's his intent, and even before that, even from the day we flew out to Malibu and there was a chance he'd be a Jets quarterback, and the day's finally here. I mentioned something last night, like, it's just hard to imagine, like, we knew this was going to happen. We knew this day was coming, but it's finally here. We have a legitimate quarterback to pair with a top 10 defense, top 5 defense from last year. Defense that has a lot of potential and the offense that has a lot of potential to go with it. But, that's been the story, a narrative we've been talking about for months and months and months. But we're in game day mode today. And we're going to talk a little bit about the Jets versus Bills game as we, again, stand 4 hours away from the start of the game. Um, Before I get started, I just want to let everybody know, just new, try and get my podcast up and running, try and get it moving along. So if you haven't already, please hit the like button below and subscribe to my channel. All the help and support is highly appreciated. But to start off, I just want to hit on a couple of key matchups I think for this game. Just gonna go through some of the some of the different matchups along the Bills team and then our team and what to look out for. The first thing we really look at, it's going to be our secondary versus the Bills wide receivers. Um, everyone we all know the capabilities of Stephon Diggs and Gabe Davis, especially what Gabe Davis did a couple years ago in the playoffs. Didn't have as good of a season last year as maybe a lot of people were expecting after that monster 3 touchdown game versus the Chiefs. But nonetheless, he's a very talented player, and Josh Allen will look for him, especially with the Jets giving extra attention to Stephon Diggs, being the primary target, rightfully so. So it's going to be a tough matchup here. A big first test for DJ Reed, who proclaimed that this Jets defense has the ability and the talent to potentially be one of the top defenses in the league, comparing it to the A5 Bears and Legion of Boom. This will be their first major test. Obviously, with quarterback of Josh Allen's capabilities, along with the skill players of Stephon Diggs, what he can do in the open field and what he can do to get open. They'll be looking for him a lot. We did some, we remember that first game of the season last year against the Bills. Well, first game that we played against the Bills. The Bills came right out of the gate and hit Diggs for a long gain. Obviously after that, the Jets kind of hunkered down a little bit, adjusted however way possible, and Stephon Diggs didn't have as significant of a game following that big play. That drive obviously stalled with a Jordan Whitehead interception. That shut that drive down pretty quickly. But in addition to the wide receivers, do want to also touch on these tight ends for the Buffalo Bills. Dalton Kincaid is a rookie that the Jets and the Bills drafted in the first round. It's going to be interesting to see how the Jets handle the tight end situation. Dawson Knox is still there, and he's been a pretty reliable target for Josh Allen over the first few years of Josh Allen's career. So definitely, first big test here for the safeties and if we want the linebackers into this mix as well as far as who's going to cover the tight ends. We all went into the offseason, thought safety was a big need. The Jets didn't really address it outside of the Chuck Clark move, but unfortunately, his season was cut short. A lot of praise from this team and this coaching staff has been pointed in the direction of Tony Adams as a free safety type of player. So interested to see how he does in his first season as a full time starter. He'll be our primary free safety, obviously. You would expect in most passing situations. So it's going to be a big test here. Skill players versus our Jets secondary. Who our Jets secondary is just every bit of as talented as any in the league, if not up there with the top of the line. You got you know DJ Reed, you got Sauce Gardner, Michael Carter II, Tony Adams. I know Jordan Whitehead had a down year last year, but I was very excited when the Jets brought him in. He's a player that flies to the football. Very good downhill type of player, like that, like a strong what you would envision out of a strong safety type of player. So I fully expect another year second year under Robert Saleh's system, that we would see a little bit of more of an increase, and this is gonna be the first big game to see that happening. So moving along, to the next major area, and I'm trying to keep this as like, as identified as possible. I know that the last one focused on, all the pass catchers versus the entire Jets secondary, keeping this one a little bit more um, isolated to the inside. So for the Bills, their interior offensive line versus our interior defensive line. We all know Robert Saleh is going to run a rotation with his defensive linemen. So you're going to have, Quinn Williams playing critical snaps, obviously. And then who's that other guy that's, kind of behind them? JFM obviously will be flowing in from edge to interior, is my expectation. That's what he's done for a lot of his career with the Jets. So I would expect that to continue, but maybe with all the bodies on the outside. Maybe maybe JFM has more of a role on the inside than on the outside. Obviously, he's a spectacular edge setter in the run game, so you obviously don't want to lose that ability. But like I said, there's a lot of bodies on the edge spot, and not as many on the interior. So I would expect maybe more of a snap share on the inside for JFM than maybe we have seen in the past, just because of the bodies we have out there. But again, we got Quinn Williams, we got JFM, Quentin Jefferson, and then Al Woods, kind of all going up against the Bills' interior offensive line. Um, the Bills have had Mitch Morse for a few years, but they are relatively a brand new interior offensive line. So you got to whenever that's said, your first question has got to be how's the chemistry? Are these players familiar with each other enough to be able to handle a situation where you have a premier defensive lineman in Quinton Williams? He causes problems on his own right against teams of you know experienced offensive linemen. We've seen many instances where this guy's being double teamed and even triple teamed to just keep him from causing havoc in the backfield, and he still manages to make these plays happen. So yeah, we have Connor McGovern, who not on our team, but the other Connor McGovern, because the NFL is a two Connor McGovern league. You have Connor McGovern coming in from Dallas. He was a guard there for quite some time, and then Osiris Torrance is their starting um, their starting guard on the other side. Um, a rookie coming out of Florida who I thought was pretty talented. I liked him a lot coming out of the draft. But again, he is a rookie, and how are they going to handle all these defensive linemen rotating, shuffling, keeping these defensive linemen fresh to go up against these offensive linemen? It's going to be a big test, obviously, for the Bills and this interior unit getting their first start together as a unit. But again, it's everyone's first game too, so you have Quinton Williams and JFM are familiar with one another, playing with each other for the past. I want to say JFM's been here for 3 years. Um, so, but it's going to be. I think that's the area. If you had to tell me, like for all aspects of this game, that's probably the area where the Jets have the highest potential boom situation. If Quinton Williams is having his game, we all know how dominant he can be. And going up against an offensive line for the Bills that hasn't played with each other for, this is their first start together, it could be a situation where Quinton is in the backfield and in the backfield often, especially with how well he's done during the during training camp in the off season. So that's probably the biggest aspect of this game where the Jets can really make a statement. And then I'm going to switch over to the offensive side for the Jets, obviously, up against the Bills defense. And the first area I wanted to address is the Bills edge defensive linemen versus the Jets offensive tackles. So obviously, last season was quite an anomaly for the Jets on the offensive tackle position. You know, I, they had injury after injury after injury after another, and obviously the season became too long for the Jets to sustain what they had at the offensive tackle position. Well, the Jets come into the season with Dwayne Brown and Kai Becton as their starters. We all know what Mekhi Becton is capable of. We saw him very dominant as a rookie and haven't seen much of him since. We saw him for a half against Carolina, and outside of that, saw him very little in the preseason. This past preseason. So the biggest test here, obviously, is that the Bills. very similar to the Jets run with a rotation on their defensive line. Greg Rousseau, Leonard Floyd, Shaq Lawson, former Jet, and AJ Benessa, all very talented edge players going up against these Jets offensive tackles, which again, Dwayne Brown played with basically one arm last year and was pretty sustainable on that side. So you would expect that him to have a bounce back year and improve on what he did last season. And then Makai Becton, it's going to be baby steps for the most part for what to expect out of Makai. We all know what he's capable of and how dominant he can be when he is on his A game, especially in the run game. Maybe not as strong in the pass protection game, but I think with the Jets probably going to be focusing on getting the run going and trying to keep that afloat, especially on the right side when you hand it off to either Dalvin Cook, Breece Hall, Michael Carter on that right side, running behind AVT, Makai Becton. Definitely good things can happen on that side, especially if Makai Becton is, pancaking, running people over like we know he's capable of. So I think this is an area when you look at the key matchups in this game, I think this is an area where, you know, is Makai rusty? Is Dwayne Brown, just as rusty because he just came back the week before our final preseason game. So definitely an area where you look at this and they haven't had much time as starters in this position. Is this going to be a situation where there could be that potential for you know, the Bills to take advantage of players that haven't really had much time to get up to speed. Mekhi Becton, we all know, has been pretty much on a snap count type of situation, not playing really more than 25 snaps in the preseason. This is going to be his first live game, full game type of situation where you almost double that snap count is kind of the hope and guidance that you would get from a full game perspective. Can he do it? I know a lot of teams don't really play the starters throughout the whole preseason. So it's a test for all teams. But for Makai, a guy coming off of injuries with that knee, is he confident enough in it? It sounds like he is. Sounds like the team has his back on 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 all. But this is probably the area where I will keep my eyes peeled to see how this Jets edge offense tackles on this outside prepare for a team like the Bills that will come in with their edge defenders, with their ears pinned back. And then the last possession battle I really want to touch on is the Bills' safeties and linebackers. So they're basically the heart of the Bills' defense versus Aaron Rodgers and these running backs. So, you know, over the years, we all know about the Jets' deficiencies at the quarterback position, and the Bills obviously have been strong at the safety and linebacker positions for quite some time now with Poyer, Hyde, Matt Milano, and Tremaine Edmonds have been basically stalwarts on that Bills defense for quite a long period of time. Obviously, this past off season, Edmonds leaves and ends up going to the Bears for a big money contract. So who's that second linebacker that's going to come in and take Tremaine Edmonds' spot? Obviously, Edmonds was a fantastic player, wouldn't really expect somebody to come in and fill his shoes, per se. But I think Terrell Bernard is the name that pops up when you look up the Bills depth chart. Is this a guy that's going to kind of come in and fill in that role? Obviously, big shoes to fill there. But when you look at this position, the Jets have for years had troubles with these safeties because they are super intelligent. Probably one of the best safety tandems, if not the best, in the NFL especially with their familiarity with one another. They've been playing together for at least the past 4 years, and have been dominant on that Bills defense, and they're a huge part of why the Bills have been so dominant as a defense. But now you come into a season where the Jets have somebody who in Aaron Rodgers, who has seen basically everything that the league has had to offer and has played against the Bills and has played against some of the Hyde and Poyer, in fact, with the Packers as well. So for the first time in this, Bills Jets rivalry, since Josh Allen has been there, the Jets have a quarterback that can go in there and, with his intelligence, with his smarts, and with his, ability to read defenses, will be able to gauge what these safeties are doing. How are they playing certain situations? And the Jets really have not had that ability, and still with that, have put together a couple of competitive performances last season. I expect again for Aaron Rodgers to come in and with his knowledge and with that downgrade to the second linebacker spot. Matt Milano is we all know what he is. He's still one of the best linebackers in the league, and he's gonna give us reasons to worry from the linebacker spot. But again, in his major big game with us against us last year, he was going up against the Jets with Mike White at quarterback, not really doing his pre-snap reading, and we all remember that huge monster hit that Matt Milano had on Mike White, causing for Mike White to leave the game. Aaron Rodgers with his intelligence, he's not gonna be you know as inexperienced as Mike White was to where that would be something that would happen. Nonetheless, as well, the Jets front offensive line is going to be much improved too. Going into that game, we didn't have ABT. We did not have obviously our offensive tackles intact. So this is going to be a major upgrade from the offensive line standpoint and from quarterback standpoint with his eyes kind of understanding. And I really expect with the Jets understand the loss of Edmonds, um, who is that second linebacker. If they find a matchup against that guy, again, there's not much film or to go off of with Bernard. He played a very limited role with the Bills last season. So if the Jets find themselves in a situation with Brees or with Dalvin Cook where they can maybe slip one of those guys into the slot as another pass catcher, or just match them up with one of those linebackers, I think you can see a situation similar to some plays that Brees Hall had last year, where the Jets were able to kind of find him in a bad matchup and hit him downfield. That's something to really look at in this game, and that would have MetLife going berserk. I'm just looking forward to what Brees Hall can do, recovering from his ACL injury. Again, I'm strongly confident in this game. I know the Bills are a great team, and this is not a slight at all to what they are capable of. I think the Bills are going to be a very strong team in this division. Obviously, they're AFC champions, AFC East champions for the past couple of years. Definitely not a team to shy away from. But the energy of this game, the atmosphere, the this isn't a football game. This is a event. This is going to be a. I mean, you can just see the way this game is kind of already portraying. There's a line that we haven't seen before outside of MetLife, and every fan that's there to be safe, have a great time. But I mean, the atmosphere of this game, I don't think will be matched to anything that this fan base has really seen for such a long time. I mean, you have a quarterback coming in from a team he's played for 18 years, however long it's been, and he's coming in here and he's hungry. He's every bit of what we wanted for him to be. He's dialed in, he's committed, and this is his first big test against a defense as strong as the Buffalo Bills is. And I just think with all that energy feeding through, all that electricity, that's gonna come with, coming out of that tunnel for the first time, it's gonna bring nerves, obviously, but we have Aaron Rodgers, and I don't think, obviously he's gonna have nerves just like any player would, any player that says they walk into that first game of the season without some nerves, is pretty much lying. I mean, obviously, they can handle the nerves better than, someone coming off the street could, but Aaron Rodgers has seen this so many times, but just not in this atmosphere where he's going into a new brand new team. That stadium will be ready to burst at the first major play, and this team is going to want to make that first big play. And especially after last night's performance by the Giants, that future offensive performance, that offensive line was terrible against Dallas. This entire city is really begging for something to happen in that stadium, and I think there's going to be every bit of what we've been expecting. I said last week that I believe this is going to be a close game throughout, but at some point late in the fourth quarter, I think the Jets are going to find a way to run away with it, and really put the cap on this game. I think going into the fourth quarter, it will be close. I think the Jets will maintain a lead for this game, 17-14, going into that quarter. But I do think we find 2 late touchdowns to get this game put to wraps with a final score that I'm predicting of 31 to 7, 31 to 14 is my final prediction on this. Um, Again, super pumped. How can we not be? This game is now just under 4 hours, 3 hours and 45 minutes away. I'm going to post this video again. If you haven't already, please help me out, like and subscribe to my channel. And for all you Jet fans out there, enjoy the hell out of this moment. There's not many moments that are going to come like this. This is a prime time event, and hopefully, I'm hoping, cross my fingers. I'm pumped about it. Just hoping this team gets out of here with a big W like I'm expecting. And for all you Jet fans, have a great time. Go Jets.